This 19-year-old nerd has hacked 90% of Spain before being arrested. When you think of hackers, what's the first image that comes to mind? I bet you think of a figure dressed in black, hunched over a computer and trying to take over the world? But who could have guessed that real-life hackers look like this? This is José Luis Huertas, also known as Alcasec, and he hacked 90% of Spain's data at the age of 19. Wondering how he did that? Well, he learned how to hack by watching YouTube videos, and as soon as he became good enough, he hacked HBO and gave out free subscriptions to his friends. And for the ones who enjoyed a burger meal, he hacked Burger King ordering machines. But this gets even better. Every time he successfully hacks a reputable brand, he posts it on social media for his hundreds of followers, and he was named the Hacker Robin Hood. However, Alcasec was buried in something much more sinister, something that would eventually have him behind bars. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Buckle your seatbelts and let's journey back in time to where this all started. Part 1. The beginning. Alcasec was born as José Luis Huertas in Madrid, where he began to learn programming and cybersecurity. At the age of 14, while most of us were dreaming about our crushes, José spent his hours watching YouTube videos and learning to be a programmer. But he wasn't doing any of these because he wanted to have a career in tech and cybersecurity. He just wanted to prove to himself that he could access any website or service without having to pay for it. Eventually, Alcasec became the ninja hacker. He could worm his way into any website without anyone noticing. And just like any teenager with cyber power would have done, he decided to get started with his school's cyber system. José easily gained entry into the school's website, found his profile, and boosted all his exam grades. Seeing that nobody noticed, José hacked the system again and improved the grades of his friends. I'm pretty sure José and his friends never read a page anymore till they left high school. But it eventually becomes boring to hack your school system over and over, especially when it has become too easy. By the age of 16, José increased the stakes and began to attack larger organizations. The teenager began with hacking Spain's public bike rental system, and for every hack he made a corresponding post on social media. If you walked to any of the stations he hacked, you'd see this on the display. Hacked by Alcasec, and you'd be able to take any bike you want for free. José was no longer a teenager with hacking skills. He had now become Alcasec, a hacker that could infiltrate any working Spanish system. Satisfied with his progress, Alcasec contemplates his next target, eventually choosing a Burger King in Madrid. And just like his attack on the bike rental system, his hacking allowed people to order food for free. Alcasec was on a roll, and due to his massive Instagram following, he was slowly becoming a popular figure among young people. It was only a matter of time before he picked his next target. Now confident in his skills and abilities, Alcasec knew it was time to do something public, something that went past the shores of Madrid, and HBO Max was the unfortunate victim. By finding a flaw in their system, the teenage hacker was able to create totally free HBO accounts, and again, he gave them freely to 151,000 of his followers. Wow, no wonder this guy is called Hacker Robin Hood. The start of the dark days. Alcasec might have intended to hurt no one with his hacks, but it was already too late. His attack on HBO allowed the company to lose around 500,000 euros, and this instantly threw Alcasec into the global limelight, well, for the wrong reasons. It was too dangerous to operate now, and Alcasec had to go under the radar for a while. However, as soon as he got back, there was an infiltration of the Madrid health system, and none other than José Luis Huertas was behind it. This particular attack gave Alcasec a sort of access he had never had before. He could see the medical records of almost everyone in Madrid, change medical appointments, and even prescribe drugs for patients. But all he did was announce his attack to his followers as usual and publicly release the medical record of an influential Spanish politician, Santiago Abascal. It was impossible to ignore Alcasec now, and in a matter of days, he was arrested for the first time in April 2020. The authorities accused him of being behind several cyber attacks, and this got the 16-year-old 3 years in juvenile prison. Fortunately for Jose, he spent only a few months before he was released, with a strong warning: next time you get in trouble again, you'd be back behind bars. Hold on. If you've watched this video up to this point, then you must be enjoying it. It's only fair enough that you subscribe to this channel. Done? Let's get back to it. Alcasec is silent for the first few weeks after his release, but when his name appears in a local newspaper, everything changes. It all started when a newspaper named La Sexta reported that Alcasec's family depended on his cyber attacks to survive. And naturally, this headline immediately got Alcasec very angry. You'd also be pissed off if somebody said the same about your family. Eager to teach this newspaper a lesson, he hacked the system of the company that owns this magazine and then created a fake credit card in the name of its CEO. When this was done, he began to steal money from the company in the name of its owner. Now that's some badass way to commit a crime. But something far more interesting was happening at the same time. Alcasec had hacked the National Police of Spain and stolen thousands of data. He also cleared names of suspects, stole evidence, and the data of active police officers all around the country. It was impossible to not arrest Jose after this, and by 1 a.m. on February 4, 2021, he was arrested again. He was only 17 years old, and this next part will surprise you a little. For the second time, Jose was going to somehow escape prison. It's almost like this guy is besties with luck. Instead, he got sent to a juvenile center in Madrid, the El Lavadero, where he stayed for 5 months before getting to the outside world. But this was not the end of trouble for Alcasec. In fact, he was about to become mixed with one of Spain's most notorious criminals, Francisco Nicolas. Francisco was known as El Pequeño Nicolas, which means Little Nicholas, is a criminal who had once been charged with forgery and identity fraud. While nobody except these guys know exactly how they met, I believe they met while Alcasec was still a teenager. As soon as they met, Little Nicholas said Alcasec was a genius with so much potential, and he wanted him to start his own cybersecurity company. At the time, we all thought Little Nicholas was a mentor to Alcasec, even though the concept of mentoring between criminals sounds like a cuckoo. It was good to see that someone was finally trying to put Alcasec on the right path. And Little Nicholas wasn't scared to splash over 30,000 euros on the young hacker. He paid a psychologist that money just so he could write something good about Alcasec, and this will help him escape the juvenile center. But then Alcasec appeared on a podcast in 2022. He instantly corrected this public sentiment about his relationship with Little Nicholas. It was all about the money for Little Nicholas, and he even wanted Alcasec to hack bigger companies so they could make more money. At the end of the day, the friendship kind of disappeared, and we never heard anything about these two. Well, until Little Nicholas ended in the hospital with a swollen face. First suspect that comes to mind, Alcasec. But the hacker and his friends deny that this had anything to do with them, and since no arrests were made, I guess this is one time we just have to trust Alcasec's words. As soon as he got out of the juvenile center, Alcasec was ready to go the straight way. He got a job with a cybersecurity company, and for the first 3 months of 2022, life was perfect for Alcasec. Unfortunately, trouble has got a way of always finding Alcasec. In March 2022, there was a cyber attack on the Granada City Council. Hackers gained access into the city's purse and stole around 50,000 euros. After the attack, 8 suspects were arrested. But when they lined these suspects up at the station, none of them was Alcasec. One officer probably thought, every suspected hacker here is friends with Alcasec. Doesn't that mean he's one of them? And just like that, Alcasec was arrested and thrown in with the rest of the gang. But he maintained his innocence, saying he had nothing to do with the crime. All thanks to the extra efforts of his lawyer, Alcasec became a free man in May 2022. Now, remember that Jose became a free man on the condition that he wouldn't commit any more crimes? Since this violated the terms of his release, he was sent back to juvenile prison to resume his sentence of 3 years. Seems pretty unfair, right? Especially when you consider the fact that he wasn't even convicted for the Granada City attack like the others. His lawyer was finally able to get him off the line in October 2022, and this date would be the last normal month in the life of José Luis Huertas, the biggest Spanish cyber attack. Alcasec has finally gotten tired of playing cat and dog with the police, and he finally decided to play one final move to end the game. On the 18th of October 2022, a report emerged that the General Council of the Judiciary had been hacked into. This council is the most powerful judicial arm in Spain, and it has a connection with almost every public institution in the country. On this day, the council suffered a massive data loss, where over 400,000 taxpayers' banking data were stolen. The entire country was panicking. Was this going to be the end of the attack? Or was this the first attack in what might be the biggest data breach in the country? Just 2 days later, another cyber attack hit the council. This time, the data of 130,000 people had been stolen and perhaps sold on the dark web. It was becoming just like a movie, but Alcasec was just getting started. A couple of days later, the cyber attacks reached its prime after the data of 500,000 people were left exposed for other hackers to claim. This was unacceptable, and it seemed like Alcasec's hunger for revenge had pushed him beyond the edge. This attack not only exposed regular citizens to scams, it also put their personal information out there, including their addresses, bank balances, and even card details. An investigation instantly went underway, and the Spanish intelligence agency was determined to end these cyber attacks once and for all. But would they be able to stick anything to Alcasec? The first thing the investigation discovered was the familiarity of the cyber attack. After the cryptological department assessed the attack, they believed it had too many similarities to the cyber attacks from the previous years, and only one young man was the center of it all, Alcasec. But it's illegal to arrest somebody with belief. There has to be an actual cause for arrest, and the department found this in April 2023. After studying and investigating the digital trail of the cyber attack, they got their man, and Alcasec was arrested again. This time, however, something was a little different. Alcasec was arrested alongside his friend Daniel Bailo, and both of them were considered the mastermind behind these attacks. At this point, I'm sure we have the same question on our minds. How exactly did Alcasec and Daniel make this happen? Must have been one hell of a lot of work. To get started, the pair had to create a website that could steal the data of these government officials, and this was where the expertise of Daniel came in. To trick government officials, Daniel couldn't just create a website with a new link and expect them to click on it. Instead, he did something that put every single government official at risk. He created a fake website right on top of the original one. This way, when you log on to the original government website, you are also logging into Daniel's fake one, and every word you type goes straight to his database. To successfully do this, the duo also had to get help from abroad, so they contacted a Russian group who specialized in domains that couldn't be traced. With an unbreakable domain, they proceeded to continue their plan. With this fake website, they were able to get the login information of 2 justice officials. After this was done, Alcasec could now gain access into the council's system, allowing him to conduct his attacks without raising any red flags. At the end of this data heist, Alcasec and Daniel had stolen the data of almost 1 million people, all stored in a server in Lithuania. Just like every other hacker that had come before him, Alcasec had only one use of this data: sell to interested parties. Interestingly, this decision to sell will cause him to start the Udia database, a database represented by the Eyes of Horus, and this was no doubt a grim suggestion that Alcasec was watching all of us. he finally sold several chunks of this data to different people, and when he later appeared in a podcast before his arrest, he claimed that his database contains information about almost everyone that lives in Spain. Hold up, did you hear that right? Of course you did, but I promise you that is not even the worst part of this story. Alcasec revealed that this database further contains banking information, recent transactions, and even private information about the most famous Spanish celebrities. This makes us wonder how many years he's been working on that database. Now, here's the thing about having this sort of data in one place. Not only could dangerous people get access to this, it also puts an entire country at risk of being scammed. Do you remember the stolen police data? This could be sold to the bad guys who, in turn, will use these to their own selfish advantage. On the other hand, if it falls into the hands of the good guys, then it could be used to market products a whole lot better. And according to Alcasec himself, this data might not be on the hands of the good guys. During the podcast, he said this database was perfect for businesses and organizations, and he could guarantee that they could use this data without having to go to court. Alcasec had done the impossible. He had committed the biggest data heist in Spain's history. So who did Alcasec eventually sell all these data to? Unfortunately, it somehow had ended in the hands of the highest bidder, and the biggest one of them turned out to be a criminal named Juan Carlos Ortega Guerrero. Juan had one goal in mind. He would use all this data to create a massive phishing scam where he would pocket thousands of dollars. But I guess he was too slow for the long hands of the law. When this guy was arrested, his house was filled with guns, ammunition, and expensive jewelry, suggesting that he had ties to some really dangerous crime groups. But this story is not about Juan. What really happened to Alcasec after this? He was arrested like the previous times, but he was going to get off the hook again. After an agreement with the court and his lawyers, Alcasec was released one more time on the condition that this would be the last time. And since his release in 2023, it looks like the hacker is finally ready to turn his life around. Today, he works with a cybersecurity company where he's shown a certain level of dedication. But none of these have changed the mind of the authorities because they still think he's a threat. So they revoked his passport so he cannot leave the country, and they also require that he comes to the court every 15 days. And the mistakes of his past might just catch up with him very soon. If he ever gets arrested again for the same charges, Alcasec might be looking at 20 years in prison. If that happens, we are sure that his thousands of followers will trend hashtags on his name all over social media. But do you really think he deserves to walk as a free man after all he's done? Or is he simply a product of his environment, like his followers suggest? Do you also think this young hacker will be able to keep himself out of prison? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. I'm pretty sure you enjoyed this video as much as I did, so why not hit the subscribe button? If you don't, Alcasec might just come out of retirement to get you. Just kidding. See you in the next one.